Somewhere in the remote landscapes of Canada, workers once uncovered bones that should not have existed. They were buried deep beneath the earth, arranged with intention, preserved in a way that suggested something more than chance. At first, they believed it was an ordinary find. Until they began to measure. The skeleton was far larger than expected. Not just tall, but proportionally different. Thicker bones. A skull too large for any known human anatomy. The reports spread quickly. Then, just as suddenly, they disappeared. Records were lost. Specimens vanished. And the discovery was quietly forgotten. But a question remains. What exactly was buried there? And why does no physical evidence remain today? History gives us the comforting illusion that the world has already been discovered. The maps are filled in. The continents explored. The past carefully documented. But every so often, something emerges that does not fit within that structure. A discovery that resists explanation. An anomaly that cannot be easily dismissed, yet cannot be fully proven. These moments do not expand history. They disturb it. Because they suggest that what we know may only be part of the story. Tonight's investigation begins with a claim that has lingered for more than a century. The alleged discovery of giant human skeletons hidden beneath the soil of Canada. If you find yourself drawn to real historical mysteries that remain unresolved, consider subscribing. There are many discoveries that history still struggles to explain. The first reports began to appear in the late 19th century. At the time, large parts of Canada were still being cleared for railways, settlements, and industry. Laborers digging through untouched land occasionally encountered something unexpected: buried remains. At first, these discoveries were not unusual. Human skeletons had been found before, but in a few isolated cases, the bones seemed different, larger than anticipated. Some reports described skeletons exceeding 7 feet in height. Others suggested even greater measurements. But it was not just the size that raised questions. It was the proportions. The bones were described as unusually thick, the skulls larger than normal, the structure somehow unfamiliar. This was the first clue, because height alone can be explained. But proportion suggests something else entirely. And that is where the mystery begins. Pause for a moment and consider this. If early investigators truly encountered skeletons with proportions outside known human variation, do you think they would have recognized their significance? Or dismissed them as errors? Share your thoughts in the comments. As these accounts circulated, they began to attract attention. Local newspapers reported the discoveries, often with dramatic language. But documentation was inconsistent. Measurements varied, locations were vague, scientific verification was rare. And yet, the pattern repeated. Multiple reports, similar descriptions, the same unsettling implication. That something larger than ordinary humans may have once existed. But by the early 20th century, something changed. The reports began to fade. Specimens that were supposedly collected were never formally catalogued. Institutions that should have preserved such findings had no record of them. It was as if the evidence had simply disappeared. This absence became the second clue, because in archaeology, disappearance is not neutral. It creates doubt. Was the evidence never real? Or was it simply never understood? Modern science offers a grounded explanation. Cases of unusual human height are known and well documented. A condition called gigantism, caused by hormonal imbalance, can lead to extreme growth. Individuals affected by it can reach remarkable heights. But even in these cases, the proportions remain consistent with human anatomy. This is where the historical reports become difficult to reconcile. Because they do not describe height alone, they describe something structurally different. And yet, without preserved remains, there is no way to verify those claims. Around the midpoint of this investigation, it is worth considering another possibility. If you are interested in exploring mysteries like this, consider subscribing. Some of history's most important questions remain unanswered. The human mind is naturally drawn to patterns. When multiple accounts describe similar events, we begin to connect them. But patterns can be misleading. Early newspapers were not always reliable sources of scientific truth. Exaggeration was common. Sensational stories attracted readers. It is entirely possible that some reports were embellished or even fabricated, but that explanation does not resolve everything, because similar stories appear across different regions and different time periods. This becomes the third clue. Not evidence, but persistence. Why does this idea continue to appear? One explanation lies in cultural memory. Across North America, some indigenous traditions speak of ancient beings of unusual size. These stories are complex and symbolic, not literal historical records. But their existence raises an interesting question. Could fragments of distant events survive, not as evidence, but as story? Or are these simply universal myths, repeated in different forms across cultures? Pause again and consider this carefully. Do you believe stories passed down through generations can preserve elements of real events, even if they are no longer scientifically verifiable? Or do they evolve too much to be trusted? Let me know your perspective. As modern archaeology advanced, standards became stricter. Discoveries are now carefully recorded, measured, and analyzed. Techniques such as carbon dating and DNA sequencing allow scientists to understand human remains with precision. If giant human skeletons truly existed, modern methods should have revealed clear evidence by now. But they have not. This absence leads many researchers to conclude that the historical reports were likely misinterpretations. Large animal bones mistaken for human remains, measurement errors, or exaggerated accounts amplified through repetition. And yet, the mystery remains. Because uncertainty has a way of lingering, especially when evidence is incomplete. Today, researchers continue to study human variation, ancient populations, and genetic anomalies. Every new discovery adds detail to our understanding of the past, but it also reveals how much remains unknown. And occasionally, it reminds us that not every question has a clear answer. Near the end of this investigation, we return to the central issue. The alleged giant skeletons of Canada have never been conclusively proven. There are no verified specimens, no confirmed measurements, no surviving evidence that meets modern scientific standards. And yet, the story persists, not because it has been proven, but because it has never been fully resolved. This is what makes it compelling. It exists in the space between possibility and doubt, between history and speculation, between what was reported and what can be confirmed. If you have followed this investigation to this point, consider subscribing. There are many more mysteries where the evidence is incomplete and the questions remain, because in the end, this story is not just about bones buried in the ground. It is about the limits of human knowledge, about how easily information can be lost, and how difficult it can be to separate truth from narrative once time has passed. Perhaps the most unsettling part of discoveries like this is not what was found, but what may have been lost before we had the ability to understand it. And so we are left with a final question. Not whether giants once existed, but whether something important was discovered and quietly forgotten. What do you think is more likely? That the story was never real, or that the evidence simply did not survive?